Welcome to a new video on my channel and to an incredible indicator that I want to introduce today. It's an all-in-one, or rather a 40-in-1 indicator. In fact, 40 different indicators all packed into one. You can filter out buy and sell signals here depending on the configuration. This is especially great for people who have a free TradingView plan because normally you can only add, I think, 3 indicators, but with this you're unlimited. You can filter it however you like. You can say, for example, that one indicator is your leading indicator and the other has to do this or that. Only then do I want to get a buy or sell signal. Really crazy. We're going to go through this now. I'll walk you through the indicator a bit and show you some things about it. This is what it looks like at first. Absolute chaos. No, I just turned on everything possible so you can see how much is actually in there. I've never seen anything like this where you can cram everything into one indicator. By the way, I've picked out a few settings now. I'll share them with you as well. As you can see, there are already quite a few. These are more swing settings that work pretty well, but that's not all. We can really see here that the swing positions are making really good profits. Of course, it's important in this case to always trail your stop loss so you can lock in your positions. But let's go back to the very first introduction. What does it look like? For those who don't know it, it's the DIY custom strategy builder ZP-V1. You can also find it for free in TradingView under the indicators. And there are 4 different setting options here. One of them is the signal expiry candle count. I'll get to that in a moment because we'll start at the beginning with a leading indicator. And here you have about 40 different options to choose from for the main indicator you want to use. We'll go through what all is available in a moment, but pretty much every well-known one is included. This is our leading indicator, which is supposed to give us a signal whether to buy or sell. And then we have a confirmation indicator filter. Here you can add additional filters so that a trade is only triggered when these conditions are also met. So for example, if the EMA filter, meaning the chart is above the 200 EMA only, then do I want to use this channel exit? You might know the video from me, one of the early trading strategy videos where I introduced this as well. But I only want to get a signal when it's also above the 200 EMA. The good thing is you no longer need to add 2 or 3 indicators and then try to combine everything and wait until they all line up. Here we really only get a signal when everything truly matches up. But I have the option here I can select anything I want because I want all these indicators to align, and only then do I get a confirmed signal. Of course, this sounds like a lot, and for people who like to play around with indicators, it is quite a bit of work, but as you can see here, you really have to filter very strictly. I have to be honest about that as well. This was really just a very quick test. But now let's get back to the initial points. Here we have a signal, expiry candle count. This means that if the leading indicator appears and at the latest, or at least within the next 3 candles, which is the default setting none of these filters here that you include match, then it would be a false signal and it wouldn't be taken. So only if within 3 candles, let's say we have a buy signal, and within 3 candles these settings here also have to match, otherwise the signal won't be taken. How can you see that? This, for example, would be such a signal. That would be a failed long confirmation. In this case, it would have actually been a good one. That means this is really where you have to play around. Here again, a failed long confirmation. That means the 3 candles here were not enough. You probably understand that as well. If I increase this now, and it always takes a little while to load, there really are a lot of indicators. You'll see in a moment how far I can scroll down, that maybe you get a signal earlier. Then there we have it. I give it 5 candles time for my channel exit to give a buy signal, and within those 5 candles these other conditions should also be met. And you can see here I immediately get a much cleaner signal in this case. Of course you have to compare it with the others which actually gave over 100% on the 15-minute chart without leverage. Pretty crazy actually. And here we have several short signals that failed. It's actually quite good that these particular trades failed. You can clearly see here these specific instances would all have been failed short signals, indicating a potential issue. It also shows which ones would have been failed signals. But only when everything matches, as you can see down here in this box, does a signal actually appear. This was probably a failed long confirmation. You can see that this was fortunately the case here as well, and you can see how much you could have gained from it. So overall, pretty crazy. But that's not all, we now have these things included here. There's so much more we have. This indicator is just so powerful. I'm just going to reset the chart now. I've already set up the supply and demand zones here, because you can do that too. Of course you can't see anything here right now, but I can access all the indicators. I just have to scroll down here, and then I have the option to turn the indicators I want to see on or off. And there are so many different ways I can do that. Whether I use supply and demand or not is pretty relative, but of course it's good to know in which direction I might take profits or where my price target will be for my short position. These are just some of the options you have. As you can see, I've now added the EMA lines because I want to know where my 200 EMA is. But now I also have 2 other EMAs included. For example, I can turn these off here, I don't need them, but you can set all of these as you like. Now, of course, the question is, which indicators do you use and in which direction do you go? That's where things get really tricky. But we'll get to that in just a moment. I have 2 settings for you that I want to show, but you can, this is the next point, adjust every single indicator in there separately. As you know, for example, the channel exit doesn't work in every chart with the default settings. There are some settings you might need to pay attention to. And there really are separate settings for super trend, as you can see, HF trend. I don't even know many of these indicators, but as you can see here, every single indicator that's available here can be adjusted again. It's really crazy what's possible here, and I haven't seen anything like this until now. Someone really put a lot of work into creating this indicator, Trend Meter. I've got a strategy for you here. It's one of the most brilliant indicators I know. We'll get to a strategy for that in just a moment. Maybe I'll just quickly show it to you. The Trend Meter, for those of you who don't know it, down here it's basically nothing more than a trend determination, and it simply shows us the direction, when are we long, when are we short, when everything lines up. And I've put something together here as well, and as you can see, the Trend Meter is the main component. We'll get to that in a moment. I've also added a few other things, but the signals here too are actually wonderful, overall very strong swing signals, I have to say, with the settings I have here now. But you can see these percentages here, which are achieved each time. Here it was a 27% market movement. Here, up to the short signal, it was 65%. Of course, there are false signals. You'll always have those, but don't forget, when you get a signal, you don't just stay in indefinitely. Naturally, and this is a little tip from you, gradually but surely move into profit. You might notice when I go into replay mode, after the supply and demand zones have been reached, I gradually move my stop loss up a bit each time. Not much can really happen here. Of course, there are false signals. We're talking about an indicator. You take a look at it here. It's simply a false signal, but in that case, you would set a stop loss somewhere around this area, maybe even a bit lower. It could also be this area, since we had this low here. But what do you see here? After that, we got this short signal, which led to that massive dump in between. That's just a small example. So, what are the settings now? Here, as a leading indicator to wrap things up, I have the Trend Meter included. Of course, you can choose whatever you want, however you want to proceed. Maybe you have an indicator that you use, or you watched a video where 3 indicators were introduced that you need to set up and align, and then you use that. For example, I mentioned the Trend Meter, since I introduced that once as well. Here I'm talking about the 200 period IMF filter, but I also want it only when the 50 and 200 cross each other, only then do I want to use it. Additionally, I also have the Bollinger Bands oscillator. And did I have anything else? Right, shake-in money flow doesn't mean anything to me. And the whole suite, I've just clicked on all of these for now. And you can see here how valid these signals are overall. Don't forget, there will always be false signals. For example, that was a small false signal. But even here, if you always trail your take profit or move your stop loss, you can still achieve very good overall profits. Exactly, that would be this particular setting. I've also set something else up above just to test a bit. It's a bit more volatile, which I don't like quite as much. But what I use as a leading indicator is the chandelier exit. Don't forget, when you click on it, you also need to check below for your time frame. This is now the 15-minute time frame. Where do you have the chandelier exit? Here it is. And what other settings do you use? That's something you definitely need to do. But overall, this indicator is honestly one of the craziest things I've seen so far on TradingView. I really have to say, go look it up, see if you might have any brilliant settings for it. It would also be super awesome of you if you could put that in the comments. That way, more people can benefit from it. I'll check it out too. I can make more videos about it and share it with the community, because this indicator is honestly insane. What's been put together here is just incredible. And thanks to the person who put in so much work to make everything harmonize so well. I don't even want to know how long they spent on it. Thank you so much for watching. Like, share, and don't forget. Ciao, ciao.